Return the money or stay away. My name is Paisley Hart. I'm 36 years old, and my profession revolves around uncovering truths hidden beneath layers of deception. As a forensic accountant, I spend my days tracing numbers, exposing fraud, and finding answers where others see confusion. What I never expected was that the most devastating investigation of my life would involve my own family. The day everything changed began like any other Sunday. The afternoon sun painted golden streaks across the windshield as my son Leo sat beside me, enthusiastically explaining the strategy behind a game he had been obsessed with for weeks. His hands moved animatedly as he talked, his excitement impossible to miss. I smiled and nodded, enjoying the sound of his voice more than the actual details. Moments like these were precious. We arrived at my parents' house 5 minutes early, as usual. Being dependable had always been my identity. I parked behind a gleaming white luxury SUV that immediately caught my attention. Avery's new vehicle, of course. My sister had always possessed an uncanny talent for acquiring things she couldn't afford. Meanwhile, my sedan sat quietly beside it, practical, reliable, and fully paid off, much like its owner. Leo grabbed the cheesecake we had brought for dessert, and together we walked toward the front door. Everything seemed normal, until the door opened. My father stood there. But instead of greeting us, he blocked the entrance entirely. His expression was cold, unwelcoming, unfamiliar. "Dad?" I asked. Before I could say anything else, he spoke. "Return the $40,000 your son stole, or don't come back." For a moment, the world simply stopped. The sentence made no sense. $40,000? My son? I stared at him, certain I had misunderstood. Beside me, Leo froze. The cheesecake nearly slipped from his hands. Then Avery appeared behind my father. Her face wore a carefully rehearsed expression of sadness. "My daughter saw him near the safe," she said quietly. The words landed like stones. I looked past them into the house. My mother sat silently on the couch, staring at the television. She didn't even turn around. Not once. Brad, Avery's husband, leaned against the fireplace with folded arms. Nobody looked surprised, confused. Because they had already decided. This wasn't a conversation. It was a conviction. The trial had happened without us. The verdict had already been delivered. I looked down at Leo. His face had gone pale. "Mom," he whispered. The hurt in his eyes sliced through me. Not because he feared punishment, because he genuinely couldn't understand why his own family believed such a thing. Leo was 13 years old, a shy, thoughtful kid who spent weekends building robots and repairing electronics. He was the kind of child who returned extra change when cashiers made mistakes. The idea of him stealing anything was absurd. Yet here we were, being treated like criminals. A familiar feeling settled over me, not shock, recognition, because deep down I had seen this before. For as long as I could remember, my sister had been protected from consequences. And for just as long, I had been expected to absorb them. Avery was the golden child. I was the solution to everyone's problems. Growing up, she received praise. I received responsibilities. If she wanted something, my parents found a way to provide it. If I wanted something, I was told to be grateful for what I already had. I learned early that being useful earned more approval than being loved. When I was 8 years old, I wanted a science kit. Instead, I received a vacuum cleaner and instructions to keep my room tidy. 2 months later, Avery's birthday included a giant party, entertainers, expensive gifts, and enough decorations to rival a small carnival. Nobody thought that was strange. It was simply how things worked. Years later, the pattern continued. When Avery crashed my father's car after sneaking out to a party, I took the blame. I convinced myself I was helping her, protecting her, being a good sister. The punishment lasted months. The reputation lasted years, and Avery never corrected the lie. Not once. That moment taught me something important. In my family, the truth mattered less than Avery's comfort. The lesson followed me into adulthood. I built a stable career. I paid my own way through college. I raised my son after my marriage ended. Meanwhile, Avery bounced from one financial crisis to another. Whenever disaster struck, everyone looked at me. Need help with taxes? Call Paisley. Need money for an emergency? Call Paisley. Need someone to clean up a mess? Call Paisley. And every single time, I answered, because I believed keeping peace was worth the sacrifice. Standing on my parents' doorstep that Sunday, I finally realized something. All those sacrifices had bought me absolutely nothing. Not trust, not respect, not loyalty. The moment Avery needed protection, they offered my son as the sacrifice. My father stared at me, waiting, expecting tears, excuses, pleading. Instead, I smiled. A small, calm smile. The kind I wear when I know someone is lying. Because they had forgotten one important detail. I find hidden truths for a living. Numbers tell stories. Transactions leave footprints. And liars almost always underestimate how much evidence they leave behind. I placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. I know you didn't do it, I said firmly. His eyes filled with tears. But Grandpa believes it. I looked directly at my father. Grandpa chose to believe it. The difference mattered. My father crossed his arms. So you're refusing to take responsibility? I met his gaze. I'm refusing to accept a lie. Silence filled the doorway. Then I gave him a choice. If you truly believe my son stole from you, then this is where our relationship ends. For a brief second, uncertainty flashed across his face. Then Avery looked at him, and he made the same choice he had made his entire life. Her. Then stay away, he said. That was it. No hesitation, no regret. Just a door closing on 36 years of loyalty. I squeezed Leo's shoulder. Come on, I said softly. We turned around and walked away. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Because in that moment, something inside me changed. The daughter who spent her life fixing family problems disappeared, and the investigator took her place. As we drove home in silence, I made a promise. Not to seek revenge, not to destroy anyone, but to uncover the truth. Because somewhere beneath the lies, the missing $40,000 had left a trail. And I intended to follow it. That night, after putting Leo to bed, I sat alone at my dining table. The house was silent, but my mind wasn't. Every word from that doorstep replayed in my head. My father's accusation, Avery's fake concern, my mother's silence. But beneath the pain, another feeling was growing. Determination. For years I had solved financial mysteries for corporations. I knew one thing better than anyone. Money always leaves a trail. And if $40,000 had disappeared, there would be evidence. I started where any investigator would. I followed the money. Within hours, a pattern emerged. Avery and Brad were drowning in debt. Their accounts showed overdraft fees, late payments, and constant financial problems. Yet somehow, around the same time the money vanished from my father's safe, large cash deposits began appearing in their account. $5,000. $7,000. $4,000. Again and again. The deposits continued until the total exceeded $40,000. My pulse quickened. Then I found the next piece. 8 weeks earlier, Avery had purchased a brand new luxury SUV worth more than $70,000. A family struggling to pay bills had somehow managed a massive down payment. The timeline matched perfectly. Still, suspicion wasn't enough. I needed proof. And proof arrived from an unexpected place. Years earlier, I had helped my father install his home security system. During setup, I connected the account to my email as a backup. He had never removed my access. When I checked the archived footage, my stomach tightened. There she was, Avery, walking down the hallway toward my parents' bedroom while nobody else was home. In her hand was a thick white bank envelope. 20 seconds later, she emerged empty-handed. The timestamp matched the same period when the cash deposits started. I stared at the screen. Then I watched it again, and again. The evidence was undeniable. For the first time since leaving that house, I felt calm. Not because I was happy, because I knew the truth. 2 days later, I returned to my parents' home, carrying a banker's box filled with documents. Everyone was there. My father, my mother, Avery, Brad. The atmosphere was tense. Nobody offered me a seat. Nobody welcomed me. I didn't care. I placed the box on the coffee table. I'm here to present facts. One by one, I laid out the evidence. Bank statements, cash deposits, vehicle records, purchase timelines. The room grew quieter with every page. Then I placed the final photograph in the center of the table. The security camera image. Avery holding the bank envelope, walking toward the room where the safe was located. Nobody spoke. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's face turned pale. Brad stared at the photograph for several seconds before shaking his head. Then he stood. I told you this would happen, he muttered to Avery. Without another word, he walked out. The front door slammed behind him. For the first time in her life, Avery stood completely alone. The mask finally cracked. She burst into tears. I panicked, she sobbed. We were losing everything. I didn't know what to do, but I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. You stole money, I said. She lowered her head. Then I continued. But that's not the worst thing you did. The room became silent. You framed a 13-year-old boy. Tears streamed down her face. You blamed your nephew because it was easier than telling the truth. Nobody could argue. Nobody could defend her. Not even my father. For years, he had protected Avery. For years, he had justified every mistake she made. But even he couldn't explain this. Eventually, Avery admitted everything. She had taken the money. She had lied. And she had blamed Leo because she believed nobody would question her story. My father looked shattered. The certainty that had fueled his accusations disappeared. In its place was regret. Deep, painful regret. But some wounds don't heal with a simple apology. I gathered my documents and stood. When you're ready to apologize to Leo, I said quietly, you'll do it directly. Then I left. The following weeks were strangely peaceful. For the first time in my life, there were no family emergencies, no desperate phone calls, no financial crises dumped onto my shoulders. Just silence. And that silence became freedom. Leo and I focused on ourselves. Movie nights, board games, weekend walks, pancake breakfasts, little moments that reminded us what peace actually felt like. Slowly, the hurt began to fade. Then one afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Avery. She looked nothing like the woman I remembered. The expensive clothes were gone. The confidence was gone. The arrogance was gone. She looked tired, broken. In her hands was a small bakery bag, blueberry muffins, Leo's favorite. She asked if she could speak with him. I left the decision to him. After a moment, he nodded. Avery stood before him, trembling. Then she finally said the words she should have said from the beginning. I lied. Tears rolled down her face. You never stole anything. You did nothing wrong. What happened was entirely my fault. Leo listened quietly. When she finished, he simply nodded. Okay, that was all. No anger, no forgiveness, just acknowledgement. The apology had been delivered. The debt had been paid. After she left, I realized something important. Healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes healing is simply hearing the truth spoken aloud. Months later, my father called. His voice sounded older, smaller. He told me they had installed new procedures for the safe. Everyone now had to sign a logbook whenever money was removed. I almost laughed. After all the damage, he still believed the problem was paperwork. Not trust, not favoritism, not betrayal. Paperwork. Before hanging up, he asked a question. You think you're better than us now? Once that question would have hurt me. Once I would have spent hours defending myself. But not anymore. No, I answered calmly. I just stopped allowing you to treat me badly. Silence filled the line. Then I ended the call. That evening I walked into the kitchen where Leo was waiting. What's for breakfast tomorrow? He asked. I smiled. Pancakes. His face lit up instantly. And in that moment, standing in our quiet little kitchen, I understood something that had taken me 36 years to learn. Winning was never about exposing Avery. It wasn't about proving my father wrong. It wasn't even about recovering the money. The real victory was refusing to carry their burden any longer. For years I had sacrificed my peace to keep everyone else comfortable. I thought loyalty meant enduring mistreatment. Love meant fixing problems that weren't mine. I was wrong. Real love protects. Real family tells the truth. And real strength is knowing when to walk away. The truth didn't destroy my life. It freed me. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting to stay in a place that keeps hurting you. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is close the door, lock it behind you, and build a better life on the other side. P.